Good day, this is John from Dambest. I have another thing I thought I would do a quick video on. I'm always amazed at the things that are learned. I have a really good customer, happens to be in Alaska. He'll probably watch this video, making it partially for him. And he had an idling problem that we had to do some more discovering. He sent the car back to me and we put it on the wet bench yesterday. I don't have any of that in front of you at the moment. We're going to talk about it. And I put it on the wet bench just as he attempted to run the carburetor. In our normal test of idle fuel, we're roughly 15 times more idle fuel than we would normally have at the same test pressure. But the thing I've learned over the years is when people are looking at something, they actually have an experience. That's an experience. And the nice thing about the wet bench is to, I'm going to wave my finger so you see everything's still going there, is to recreate it. Now normally I test the idle circuit as the last thing I do when the bench has just got done doing the main circuit at 18 inches of water. Then I go down and I test the idle and I test the transfer slot. So I test everything about 18 inches of water. Obviously it's a lot lower than the idle vacuum and some of these engines are, but it's still proportional. I mean, at this point we have thousands of carburetors that we've tested this way. So when someone sends it back and we're reading 300 units when normally this carburetor would be 15 to 20 units, we know, and it's not delivering fuel. So it's moving 300, there's no idle jet in it. Everything is wide open from the, in this case, the metering block to the butterfly area, and the fuel is just flowing in there freely at 300 units. That may be maxed out for the channel. So what I decided to do, normally, now I'm going to use my hand now to start pointing, and when they're less sensitive sometimes, like the bigger inch motors, which is pretty standard in all of our 4500s from 2 1/8 up. Now it'll probably be standard in all of them, just to have it there. We'll put the copper tube that's mitered on the end to help increase the signal, because we're going from a manifold vacuum. When these things have very low vacuum, they don't have the vacuum to actually draw fuel, because it's going up the metering block, over where the air bleed is, and then it comes down. So there's a fair amount of distance the idle fuel has to come before it actually comes through the base plate and out through the hole. So you're always, the pressure drop is not just moving fuel, but it's moving the fuel over resistance. Then you have the air bleed, which is a leak in that system. So going from when we use manifold vacuum to airspeed over the end of the tube is what was necessary for most of the bigger engines, because they have extremely poor manifold vacuum, especially around where the butterfly is in the. So as the tip-in comes up, the airspeed will actually increase some over the idle tube and help with the fact that it doesn't have any vacuum to draw the fuel out. Well, what I decided to do, I did all of these changes, went back in and flowed it, and everything looks really good. And I was out doing my workout yesterday, and I said, well, let me do what I do sometimes on the wet bench. Let me see what the test pressure in the engine would have to be to not get sufficient fuel. So normally, like I say, I'll test this at 18 inches of water. So I just kept turning the bench down to see how low it would have to go before it would lose enough fuel that it probably wouldn't idle. And this is a really strange thing. When I did this, I got down to 3 inches of water. At 3 inches of water, and because I had the air fan on it, through the primary side of the carburetor, depending on the throttle opening now, we were moving 10 to 24 CFM. I want to make sure you can see that. Let me just turn the camera a tiny bit. All right. So we're measuring that at the same time. Well, the really strange phenomena was, and this is what was really interesting to me, is even at this low booster signal, air movement around the booster, the signal was greater for drawing fuel in the main well to the booster than it was through the idle. All right. In a traditional two-circuit metering block, the idle fuel comes from a channel, and this is why I brought some of that, which is at the bottom of the main well. Let me get the earlier style. The bottom of the main well. And Holly will put the jet up here at the top, and some other put the jet on top, but it's all in the same channel because you're going through the metering block to get to these points up here. So you're drilling diagonally to this hole, and this hole comes down and feeds this hole, and the jet can be there, it can be anywhere, but it's still coming from the bottom of the main well, which is here. Well, the idle circuit in a traditional metering block is an air bleed to the main well. And when there's enough manifold vacuum that the manifold vacuum created below the butterfly or even at the butterfly to transfer slot and idle is greater than the booster signal, then it won't create air going up this channel. But as soon as the booster signal is great enough that the pressure in the metering block, because you got the jet, which is a resistance, it'll peak the resistance out in the jet, it causes the idling circuit to be an air bleed to the main booster system. So that was really interesting. So it got down to a point, we're running 3 inches of water. The carburetor is only moving between 10 and 24 CFM of air through it. That the booster signal was great enough at that point because we have the repositioned venturi, which is above the booster, which adds booster signal. This particular one just had a simple skirted booster in it, which is a very good signal drawing. And we do everything we can to continue to increase the sensitivity to the booster. Well, that's really great. And when someone's having an issue, they'll say, geez, once I get it moved up. Well, most of them don't have the time to actually measure the air, and it doesn't really take much air to get to booster signal. If a booster signal is being acquired between, and this is the primaries only, between 10 and 24 CFM. That's all your engine has to create to begin to get a reasonable booster signal to change the direction of the fuel between the idle and the booster. That's in this case, you're probably talking anywhere from 7 horsepower up to 15. I can figure it out. It's 1.24 CFM of air to make 1 horsepower. But you got air coming up the exhaust during this time, and there's a lot going on. So what I wanted to do when I was on my walk, I said, well, if I take away, because all of our metering blocks, even our new V blocks, right next to the main jet, there's another idle fuel delivery. And it's made in such a way that we open this one. We do this in all of our really big inch motors, especially if it's multiple carbs and it's got an automatic, we'll bring the idle fuel off of the idle jet, which is next to the main jets, inside of the float bowl, and we plug the original idle fuel. And that picks up the sensitivity in the main well about 30% because you're losing so much air signal through the idle circuit. So I said, let me come in today. Right now it's Sunday afternoon. According to my watch, it's 2:46 in the afternoon at this moment, Eastern Standard Time in Poughkeepsie, New York. Just to give you a time, just because it'll be out there for a bit. So what I did is I plugged the normal, I call it traditional idle feed, and there's a lot going on here because we actually moved the jets over to the main body now. And I opened up the idle jet that's in the float bowl. So now the idle fuel delivery is no longer an air bleed to the main. So whatever's going on with the main and when it begins the sensitivity, it won't change the direction of the idle fuel. Idle fuel is going to be consistent because now it's detached from the main well. Well, what a difference. At the lower signal, when we're 3 inches of water, it almost literally doubled the fuel delivery at 3 inches of water. Then I went back and put the the normal jets in it to see what it would do. Idle fuel delivery jet, which is in the main housing. So we've moved it to the main housing. So we've got fuel coming either from the main well to the main housing, or we've got it coming from the float bowl to the main housing. Now it's coming from the float bowl to the main housing, and there's no vent to the main well. Sensitivity picked up there, 30-40%, put the original jet in it, all's well. My transfer slot, right now I'm leaving it a little heavy because of all the issues that was there. If I'm guessing the engine is only creating 3 or 4 inches of water at idle, it may need the sensitivity at the transfer slot, so I left it alone, which is, right now, it's probably double what it would normally be in units. Then I reflowed the carburetor, and it took... it had a 79 jet, so we took 10 numbers of jet out because now we removed the air bleed from the main well that was the idle. In order to get the same air-fuel ratio, we had to go from a 79 jet to a 69 jet because it removes that particular thing. And I wanted to do a little short video because the person actually owns the car can see this, so they can play it as much as they want. So we spent some time yesterday and today working through the issue to try to find what was going on. Spent a little time when I was out doing my workout to rethink everything. And today I came in and I said, let me just go this direction because it's the same direction I do with bigger inch motors that don't have a lot of intake manifold vacuum when they're adding. And I wanted to see what the depression, the intake manifold vacuum would have to be to actually lose fuel delivery at idle. So I just kept lowering it. When I got down to 3 inches of water, I'd lost signal to idle. And, actually I was pretty amazed. This is, 'cause I don't do all these tests all the time. The only time I'll do something like this is when somebody has something and I need to sort it out again, take a new look at it and say, how did that happen? But 3 inches of water manifold vacuum and the airspeed so low that the booster signal is actually higher than the fuel delivery at the idle. So it will start to pull fuel from the main booster before it actually pulled fuel from the idle. So that was interesting to me because I had not done this test before. So if anybody has any questions about this, you can either send me an email at info1@dambest.com, leave a message on the Facebook page, and ask any other questions you want. I probably download this to Facebook and to YouTube, so you can do it there as well. And I hope everybody's having a great day. Any other questions, please let me know. Thank you.